that started getting worse and worse, and I got a prescription for stronger and stronger proton pump inhibitors, and I'd be taking like 40 milligrams of those twice a day, and it wasn't really working.
JP, how did you find Carnivore?
By accident here not too long ago. So I started off with like one meal a day, regular, like just whatever a person would eat, like spaghetti or anything like that. I got up to about the reason I started that was I got up to about 400 pounds, which isn't very good because I'm like 5'7". And so I lost some weight doing that, and then decided that vegetarian would be the way to go. So I looked up what vegetables were healthy, and I settled on like cabbage and peppers and things like that, and put about 6 eggs in with it, and did that for quite a while. And then finally noticed that I don't actually seem to digest any vegetables. So it was basically the 6 eggs that I was eating. And then I went to keto from there, and got down to maybe like 240 or so. And then just kind of found out about Carnivore by looking around YouTube. So, and that's basically what I was doing anyway. So I cut out dairy here not too long ago, maybe a month or so, and got down to 165 with some serious calorie restriction, which seems to be kind of a bad thing to do, as it turns out. So I started eating a little bit more on Carnivore, and have some more energy and things like that. But it seems to be working fairly well so far. And that's
Wow.
like a 3-year period, but right there, by the way. So
Okay, so 3 years, 400 pounds to 165.
yeah, I weigh more than that now. I weigh like almost 190 right now. After I started eating more, I gained weight really fast again, but then it just kind of stopped. So I was a little bit worried there for a minute.
So what, just take a step back, like what led up to the 400 pounds? Was that a gradual thing? How did you get to that point?
I've kind of been heavy like for a long time, since high school and everything. And then just after school, just kind of, just kept, I don't know, gained like 10 pounds a year or something. And it's something I didn't really notice or pay attention to. It didn't bother me. Like I could still do everything I wanted to do, and all that. And it didn't really, the thing that kind of started off the bad part of it, I guess if you want to call it that, was I was taking a whole lot of ibuprofen. And I didn't know it at the time, but that works by blocking an enzyme, I guess, in your stomach. And it kind of blocks inflammation through that. But that's also the thing that helps protect you from your stomach acid. And I started getting some ulcers and things like that. And I used to think it was like spaghetti that made me bleed, but yeah, it was a ulcer. So that started getting worse and worse. And I got a prescription for stronger and stronger proton pump inhibitors, and I'd be taking like 40 milligrams of those twice a day, and it wasn't really working, and when it turned out to be like, that was pretty unsustainable. So, and that's why I started, like doing the one meal a day. That helped because didn't really have anything else going on with it. And eventually stopped taking the ibuprofen, after I'd switched to the vegetarian thing, because oddly enough, that kind of cut the inflammation, but I didn't really realize that I wasn't getting anything from the things I was eating, except probably the eggs. Like one day I finally caught on that stuff's coming out just like it's going in. Like I'm not really digesting any of this.
So you're about 190 now. Is that that's been stable since you started eating more? And like what are you doing now with eating? Is that like 2 meals a day now, or?
The 190 is like probably the heaviest I've been in a few months, but I just started eating a little more. That's all. I was trying to get some muscle back, so I figured it couldn't do anything but help a little bit. I wasn't trying to get up too big, but I don't want to have to buy different jeans or anything.
So, So you've had significant weight loss. What other things have improved for you in the last 3 years?
Just mobility in general, and probably like everything. I mean, like the mental part of it's a big thing too, you know. You just have a different outlook on things. You can move a little more, you can do a little more, and all that. It's like kind of a, maybe you don't notice so much, but it's kind of a gradual improvement type of thing. So I don't really have to take anything. Like I don't bother with Tylenol or anything. I've got some pretty decent like spinal stenosis and things like that, and some extra bone growth and things from being so heavy for so many years, you know, like 30 years probably. So that gives you time to add on some extra structure to hold yourself up. But, you know, that stuff's, you know, pretty real, but I don't have to take anything. And I got to avoid some pretty major surgery here this summer. So that's pretty nice. And like, it's good enough that I don't do like the pain management injections. Like, I never have done them, but I was scheduled for all that. And I was like, I don't think I really need it. Like, if I don't need to take Tylenol to get through my day or anything, I probably don't need to do that either. Like, maybe I'll be wrong about that at some point, but right now it seems all right.
And you're not using the proton pump inhibitor anymore?
No, I haven't been using those for a few years. Like, I don't think that would work with like a meat diet. Like, I don't think you'd have the, you know, you wouldn't have the bile or the acid or whatever to digest. And that might be a little bit of a problem now. Like, I haven't really tried bile salts yet, but I just kind of found out about them. Kind of most of this stuff is hindsight, like finding some people, you know, online. Like Ben Bickman has a bunch of videos that are pretty good, and you know, then there's like the typical influencers that you see on YouTube all the time, like Barry and Baker and all those guys. But you know, some of the more kind of science videos, like I get a little bit more out of that to understand what like maybe the mechanism actually is. So that helps me. That's what kind of helped me do this in the first place, was just finding out what was really going on. And you're like, well, I guess I don't really need sugar, do I? Like, your brain needs sugar. You're like, apparently not. So one of those things.
Well, how did you feel when you realized stuff like that? Like, we don't actually need sugar. Like, did you do you feel at all that you were kind of we are misled throughout our lives?
Well, I mean, it's not just one person. It's like everybody thinks that. So, I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of that. You're like, ugh, but it's kind of like, what good's that gonna do you? You know, just do it now. So that sort of thing, like that's what you can affect is your now. So whatever happened before, you know, you're like, yeah, what you can do about it. So kind of one of those things. Take what information you have that I think this is right now, right? So I'm like, yeah. But who knows? 10 years from now, you're like, oh, that was dumb. But you know, I don't know that. But right now this seems pretty good. So
Yeah.
but as far as
So
understanding all of it, like it's some super high level, I don't. But I understand enough to that it really actually makes sense, you know, to do it, to eat this way, you know, and to kind of at least something that you can actually do, because eating all the carbs and sugars and things like that, you know, obviously junk food, like you got to know that's not good for you at any level. Like you should know that, but you know, a lot of times you can lie to yourself pretty good about a lot of things. So you got to watch that.
yeah. So how have people around you reacted to the way you're eating? Like
Oh, I'm still
family,
crazy.
friends? You're
Still
still
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so no one's shown any interest in it. No one said, "Oh, look, you're doing so well. What's the recipe?"
Oh, well, the first part, yeah. I mean, everybody's like, it's really nice, you know, you're obviously happy when somebody you know or whatever, you know, gets to feeling better and everything. But as far as like, I should do that too, you know, no, none of that really so far. But that's something you got to do yourself. Like when you were as big as I was and doing all that, you're like, that's not good for you. And you're like, oh, like what can you tell a person? You know, nobody could tell me anything, so I had to figure it out for myself. You know. and had to believe it, like to actually, take action on it. So it's kind of one of those things.
So, are you doing the same job at the moment that you were doing 3 years ago when you were 400 pounds?
No, no, I was an electrician for a long time, so I still am, but not not at the same place anymore. But yeah, that was getting progressively harder. I remember I was on some jobs and like looking at things, and I'd just be thinking like, man, am I getting dumber? And the answer to that was yes. Like it's like all the inflammation you get and everything, and like just the chronic level of pain and all that, like it kind of shuts you down in more ways than you'd really realize. So, but yeah, it was like I was kind of mentally slipping there for a while too. It's like, and I knew it. I didn't know why, but I knew it. I could feel it. I used to be able to remember stuff really well and like look at a print, and then I was having to write notes all over stuff. And it's like, so yeah, there's definitely a
Um,
difference with all that.
so for you, what does the future hold for you? Is this the way you're going to go eat going forward?
Until I know better, yes. Just like how I found this, it was like I did what I thought was best until I knew better. So I can't, obviously I don't know. Hindsight seems to be a pretty clear indicator, unfortunately, but yeah, for right now and for the foreseeable future, for sure. There's a lot of things that, don't seem worth adding back in. They don't make sense to add back in.
Do you on that point? Do you still get cravings for things? Do you still feel like do you still see a soda or a candy bar or some bread or something like that and feel, oh, I'd really like to eat that?
Fruit. Fruit is the thing. Like every once in a while I'll grab a grape. Like a grape. So something like that, yeah. Or a piece of avocado or something like that. Like that's more the thing. Like bread, I know that's bothered me for years. Like I would eat some bread before and I could feel that sugar spin off of it. Like or bananas or something like that. That was kind of part of my thing when I was doing the vegetarian thing. I'd make kefir with milk and then put bananas and blueberries in it, and I'd go and ride my bicycle and be like, man, but I could just feel that sugar. I didn't really know 100% that's what it was because I wasn't like tracking blood glucose or anything like that, but that's what it was. That's what that feeling is. That's sugar. So I knew it from bread, but I thought bananas were potassium and like all kinds of stuff. I didn't realize they were mostly sugar, but I know that now. So I didn't do a lot of checking.
Yeah, but I guess we assume that all the stuff we see on TV or reading magazines or books or whatever about bananas have got so many vitamins and whatever. We assume that they're not going to. If they were bad for us in any way, they would tell us that too. But they kind of leave that information out, or it's not in context.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess if you've never made yourself super unhealthy, like you can get away with, eating that and burning it off. Like, a lot of people do. And I can't say that, everybody should do one certain way of eating anything either, like, but for some people that have, really managed to overdo it, probably one of the better things you could do is try this. So after you've made yourself so insulin resistant, like, I guess I'm one of those people that can produce tons of insulin and not get diabetes. Like the funny thing about all that is like even over 300 pounds, like I'd go to the doctor and they'd check like sugar and, do your typical cholesterol and all that. And they'd like look at the paper and look at me and be like, everything looks okay. It's like, yeah, cool. So that was always kind of surprising, when you have good blood work and you're obviously pretty unhealthy, but
Yeah, I mean, that's also the interesting thing when your blood works good and you're n- n- like not, or you're clearly not healthy, um, that kind of that makes you question the validity of blood work sometimes, right? For example, with mine, I my blood work was great when I was my unhealthiest. Now the doctors are concerned about everything. They're concerned about cholesterol, they're concerned about this, that, the other, and this is the best I've ever felt.
I can
So,
understand that.
mm,
I take it you've seen the Dave Feldman stuff with the hyper responder study and all that he's got going on.
yeah, very interesting stuff.
And that kind of throws like a huge question mark on all the blood work. And that what's Dr. Siwas, he's got the YouTube channel going on too, and he goes over some blood work for keto and carnivore people, and you watch that and see the function of cholesterol and lipoproteins and all that. And now I'm trying to think if lipoproteins is a real word or if I just made it up just now. Anyway, but
I think you're right.
anyway, but yeah, what that actually does and what cholesterol does is a function, and you're like, well, it seems like I understand triglycerides are probably fairly dangerous, but as a transport mechanism, you're going to have some of that anyway. Like, and then it seems like dietary fats don't really have that much to do with, blood fats, and it kind of sounds like some of that's up in the air pretty good. So honestly, I don't have any opinion on that other than I don't really know, and I know my own numbers, they're pretty high. I'm like, whereas they used to be like considered normal, and now I'm probably in the same boat as you, where people are looking like you're just walking dead, man. It's like I feel so good. So, like, I don't know
Yeah.
what to say other than that.
I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us.
No problem.